Back with me, Jesse Weber, anchor for Law and Crime Network, Misty Marris, trial attorney, and Jona Spielberg, criminal defense attorney. Jona, what do you make of what happened here?
I'm going to make my point, and then I'm going to duck, because this judge deserves his job back. Here's why. It is common practice, you guys all know this. After a verdict and before sentence, a defense attorney has an opportunity to make a number of motions, right? That happened here. The judge didn't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to undo what I did. He responded to a defense motion. He changed his mind. That's not a circumvention of the law. That is a common use of discretion. I don't see how we went from that to kicking him off the bench.
That's what he says, but the courts commission says that they think he was lying, that he was just making that up in an effort to explain why he didn't want to give the sentence that was a mandatory minimum.
Well, the judge obviously is saying that's not what happened here.
Right.
And look, he could have acquitted this guy across the board, and we wouldn't be having this discussion, and that wouldn't have gotten him kicked off the bench.
It seems to me he didn't do his homework. I don't think he knew what the mandatory minimum was. That's what happened. I think he's at the time, he felt the evidence was there, felt it was enough to convicted him one of 3 charges, and then when he saw, oh, the mandatory minimum's 4 years, I'm not going to sentence this guy. Why don't I just throw the conviction out? This doesn't happen. We don't see this happen. It's not like new evidence came in or an appellate court overturned something. This is, even the prosecutor in this case has said he's never seen a judge overturn their own conviction like this.
Yeah, it seems like he was just developing his own sentencing guidelines.
Right,
and trying to go back, and it's really the cover-up, it seems, that he goes back as sort of a CYA and reverses his own decision. That's the craziest part to me, Dan. So it was his decision. It was
this was no jury, et cetera. Yep. All right, first, here is the judge. I asked him at one point, do you have any sympathy for her? This is what he said.
I feel sorry that she was used by this not-for-profit group who put her out. Should have never been done to a minor like that after she didn't give truthful testimony in the case.
And here's Cameron now responding to that, number 2.
There's never been any nonprofit organizations, any organizations. This was me wanting to put this out there to try. At first, we thought that we could maybe get Drew to go to prison again. Then I didn't know about double jeopardy, but after knowing about that, it became about the judge. The judge is the one who let him free.
And the judge does seem to be like kind of unnecessarily throwing in digs at her, right? I mean, you know, like he did convict the guy initially, right? Of something. And now the way to deal with this would be to say, you know, look, I have sympathy for her, because obviously he does, because he thought that the guy was guilty at first, no?
Well, and then he nullified his own verdict. But I'm curious about another thing. This was a bench trial. Yes. No jury here. There's always a reason for that. And typically you have a bench trial in a case this serious when you have a sympathetic judge. So I don't think it's new news to any of the parties concerned that this guy was sympathetic to the defense.
By the way, this is a controversial judge. He kicked the prosecutor out of his courtroom for liking a comment on social media that was critical of the judge. So his judgment is a question in and of itself as well.
Let me play, this is Cameron number 5 describing, because I think it's important, because this is what she says happened. Let's not let that be forgotten, number 5.
I end up waking up in the middle of the night to, I can't breathe at all. He had a pillow over my face. I had to turn my head over to the side just so I could breathe. And then I rolled off the couch, kind of had to push him off me to get off. And I mean, he jumps up, pulls his pants up, and just immediately started playing video games.
It's hard to listen to.
Horrible.
Yeah. But again, the question becomes about the judge's role. And this judge now, I mean, I asked him about appellate options for him, meaning can he appeal it? He said he could, but I don't think he's going to.
And he also said he was good. He did the I was going to retire anyway argument, right? Like, you know, I was going to step down anyway, but I think he realizes that if you have a judicial commission who realizes you did something wrong here, you're kind of left in a box where you have to double down. I think that's why he's going so hard against Ms. Vaughn and saying, no, I'm going to tell you why I made the right decision. I got some new evidence. You know, that's where he's going with Jona, but I think he has no choice but to double down.
Let me read what the Judicial Commission said. They said respondent, referring to the judge, gave false and misleading testimony when he testified before the board that he reversed his guilty finding based on a lack of evidence presented in the Clinton case, and not because he was trying to circumvent the law requiring the imposition of a mandatory prison sentence upon the defendant. I mean, it's a big deal for a judicial commission to kick a judge off the bench entirely. They really must have been convinced that this guy was just not telling the truth.
Right, because they didn't have to go so far as to kick him off. They could have censured him. They could have penalized him in other ways. But this was the most extreme form. But that's what it is. It's about the lying. That's what that decision says. It's about the misleading and false statements.
Have they convinced you, Jona?
No.
No.
So
All right.
I'm still going to duck.
All right. Everyone's going to stick around.